Hey guys, Chantel again. Thanks for your responses to my last video. I really appreciated hearing some of your feedback. Today I want to share one more part of my story that I left out of the last video I made. It's always a bit tough to talk about because the people involved actually got very angry about me talking about it in the past. But I've tried to repair that relationship several times and it hasn't worked. So fuck it. I'm going to tell you guys because I think it might be valuable. So after my grandfather passed away, I had a group of extended family, my second cousins and my great aunt, kind of step in. And they didn't help me in the conventional sense, but it was more I had a place to go for Christmas for a couple of years and maybe meet up in the summer once or twice. So I really kind of leaned on that. And I started, because I trusted them, when we would meet up, telling them a lot of things that had happened to me. It was kind of an outlet because you can't just tell your friends who are all 18 and haven't experienced such things and expect good feedback. So I thought maybe from these people who are about 10 years older than me, they had some more life experience, that, it would be a valuable thing to share. However, they started labeling me as negative. They told me, it's great you're interested in politics and all this social justice stuff when you're this young, but it's hard to talk to you because it's never anything positive, blah, blah, blah. And so our relationship became a little bit strained for those reasons. And I didn't really understand, and I still sometimes struggle with our culture that doesn't want to see all of the things that are going on around us. The world is absolutely beautiful. There are so many amazing people doing amazing things, but there are also a lot of bad people doing bad things. And I don't think that you should gloss over it. I think the only way that we're going to make change is to actually acknowledge that some of these things are going on. But it was difficult for them because they kind of like to live in their happy bubble, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own lifestyle. Then, I guess the tension started to build. Sorry, I lost my train of thought briefly. One point that's really important is I remember one visit with them. My one cousin that does live here in the same city had said, we consider you a little sister. We'll always be here for you. And when you're a foster kid, you really focus on things like that and you believe them. You want to believe them so badly that someone's actually going to follow through on their promises. So I did. And then they became pregnant as a family and didn't tell me personally. They told me a general broadcast over Facebook. And it wasn't a personal message or anything. It was just for everybody several months after they had told other people in the family. So I felt a little bit hurt by this because I figured I'm like a sister. Right? I should be in that list of phoning and telling good news before it gets out to everybody. And I kind of mentioned this to them. Again, not understanding the taboo that a lot of people have about discussing difficult subjects. I thought I could tell them, and then maybe next time they would act differently or consider phoning me, etc. However, this really offended them. They thought it was totally fine, and I got a message back saying you're not really immediate family, you're extended family, and we thought it was fine that you find out this way, blah, 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 which contradicted the previous statements about me being a little sister. So that hurt. But I still tried to maintain a family relationship with them. And we emailed back and forth. I was really trying to fix this. I didn't always use the best language. Sometimes it was quite passive-aggressive because I didn't understand. To me, and I'm sure a lot of people, the immediate definition of family is that you're always there for each other. Even if you disagree, even if you have a little fight, whatever, those bonds are deeper than the superficial events that happen periodically. But for them, I guess it was quite stressful that I kept bringing these things up and trying to deal with them. So then, after a period of time, I hadn't really seen them very often once this started happening. I finally got a phone call saying, let's meet up for coffee. And I was super, super excited about it because I was like, hey, maybe we can actually fix this and, move forward. So I go for coffee and I'm super excited. I think maybe they'll bring their daughter, maybe I'll get to meet her, da-da-da-da-da. But what it was in public. We were sitting at a coffee shop outdoors where there were quite a few other people. And that cousin proceeded to lecture me on how unhealthy I was. That I shouldn't talk about politics and all this negative stuff. He had found a blog that I had written and mentioned them in, but I had never mentioned their name or any details that would ever lead anybody who didn't know them specifically and know me to who they were. And really, that blog was shared between me and a friend from Argentina and another friend from Belgium. It wasn't something I posted publicly on Facebook. I mean, the internet is the internet, so you can find things if you really want to. But it was more a way that myself and these two other friends could share and discuss things. And he thought that was the most unhealthy thing that I could do. And I was basically in tears because he's talking down to me as though I'm 14 or 15. And at this point, I'm 21, I believe, or maybe 22. In public, saying how shitty I am and how I'm not handling things. And then he ends off with, I think you should really go get some help. Which is fine. Counseling is absolutely great. I'm a huge advocate for it. However, at that point in my life, I certainly did not have insurance and I did not have $160 odd an hour to pay for it myself. So I thought about everything that had happened at this coffee. And after some time, I messaged back and I said, okay, well, how about we as a family go to counseling together? And maybe we can work through this relationship dynamic that we're having. Well, nobody likes to be told that they need help, myself included at the time, but I had rationalized, okay, yes, I've gone through some trauma, and I would like to see a counselor, but I would like to do it with the people that are really upset at me right now. But they got really, really angry. Like, how dare I suggest that they were the ones that might need some help? So that was a pretty negative experience. Some time went by, and I reached out to his wife, saying, what if we just took a yoga class? I knew she was interested in Pilates. Maybe that would be something she would like to do. And that way we don't have to have any difficult conversations. We can just kind of run into each other and slowly start to build up this relationship again. And that idea got shot down. So I kind of left that section alone. Now, there's another set of cousins in the same family that live probably about 5 hours away from here. So I didn't expect as much out of them. However, I always thought, if they're driving back through Saskatchewan to go visit my great aunt and whatnot, that they would stop in for half an hour coffee, something. I had posted something on Facebook that I had considered funny, but that had offended his religious values. And so we started this discussion, and he got very, very cutting and very negative about it. And fine, I was kind of like, I share funny things. You don't have my sense of humor. That's okay. I appreciate your religious values are different from mine. This is how I choose to use Facebook. You choose to use it differently. Blah, blah, blah. But it really kind of broke the chain of that relationship too by having that difficult conversation. And he stopped visiting me. He stopped calling me. Blah, blah, blah. So afterwards, several occasions, I have sent emails and messages trying to reach out and saying, look, I know I can be passive-aggressive. I know I don't always have the right words for things, etc., but I would really like to fix this. Can we discuss it, and can we move forward? And each time, he would come back with something quite negative and saying, nope, not now. It's not going to happen. And then I would wait some period of time and try again. I always thought I'm not good enough. It was always my feeling, like they have this high standard of life. He's rather wealthy, or what I consider wealthy anyway, maybe not for everybody. That, he's got a good marriage and good family life, etc., etc. I really looked up to them. So I thought, he's viewing me the way that I have viewed some of my other family that I cut out of my life that I'm somehow toxic. And I need to prove to him that I'm not anymore. So for many, many years, I focused on that. I was always, okay, well, if I get a good job, if I get through university, if I do this, that, the other thing, I can prove that I'm good enough to be in this family, which is a really negative outlook because you're always putting yourself down. And I've come to see that over time. But through this whole process, those are the feelings that I got. And at one point in time, too, in one of my efforts to reach out, he replied, instead of responding to anything I had written, about another distant relative that was going through cancer treatment. I had never met this relative, so I said, I appreciate this. I'm really sorry to hear that. I haven't met this person. Can we discuss the issue? And he would reply with maybe 4 or 5 words of, this person is in the hospital, period. That would be the entire email. So I got pretty frustrated with that. And I didn't know how to handle it. So again, I walked away for a period of time. I found out later that he considered that his effort of reaching out. But to me, it was shutting a door and saying something so that he didn't have to feel guilty about it. Recently, again, probably 6 or 7 months ago, I guess, I tried once more over Facebook. I sent him a message. We hadn't been friends for a long time, but I sent him a message saying, okay, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I am really sorry for all the passive-aggressive messages and any of the negativity that you perceived from me. I'm at a good place in my life. Would you consider meeting for a coffee? I'm passing through your city on my way somewhere else. 4 months from now, lots of notice. It'd be really great if we could meet up. And on my part, the only thing I need from you to move on and forget that this all happened is an acknowledgement of what you did by cutting me out and an apology. And then we can move on. We don't need to talk about it anymore. No more emails, no more whatever. And he replied with, how can I trust you? I can't express how painful that one sentence was. How can he trust me? They were the ones that totally cut me out of their lives. Based on, I shared different religious views, I was interested in politics, and I trusted them enough that I shared some of my terrible, horrible, dark stories with them. After making promises that I was part of the family. How can I trust you? Really? I've been the one reaching out for almost 7 years now, trying to fix this. And I acknowledged in my last email too that some of those attempts might not have been the best way. But they were an attempt. I had good intentions. And they still closed that door. The other thing too is my great aunt. She used to call me every Christmas and every birthday to say hello. And I really, really appreciated that because remember, I don't have parents, I don't have any other family, so nobody calls me on my birthday. And then she called me one time, and I kind of fell apart. I was crying on the phone saying, why can't I get along with these people? Can you help me understand, despite my repeated attempts to fix things, why they won't reciprocate? Help me understand why me as the younger person is trying so hard to fix this and nobody is reciprocating. And she didn't really reply or give me any information whatsoever. But I had called there really emotionally, or I guess she called me, sorry. That phone call, I had been very emotional, like, how can I fix this? I'm exasperated, I have good intentions, I really want to do something right here. But apparently for her, that call was stressful enough that she decided never to contact me again. And that's been about 3 years. I don't understand how people can act this way. I really struggle. My only rationalization is that when something's stressful for them, if they're conflict avoiders, rather than push through it and come out better on the other side, it's easier to just shut the door and look the other way. But that leaves somebody like me on the outside really hurting, being like, what the fuck? That's not what family's supposed to do. So that's happened. Now, recently, I contacted the cousin's wife that lives several hours away. And I said, look, I've had this conflict with this cousin, the other cousin, etc., but we used to be friends too. So is it possible to start there and rebuild a friendship? And she was really nice, and she met with me, and it was fantastic. So I'm really happy that she was willing to do that. However, then I tried to, slowly start opening the door again. I said, may I send you a Christmas card? Now, I live 5 hours away, something, right? So what harm is it going to be for me to send a Christmas card? But I wasn't allowed to have their address. And I really don't want to put any blame on her because she is awesome. And she's kind of caught in the middle, right? So I feel like it's my cousin that's really nervous about me having the mailing address for some reason. Now, I have never, ever shown up unannounced. I've never shown up, period, since this whole conflict started. And really, I have zero indication of why it would be any sort of threat if I did show up. Okay? No criminal record. I don't drink. Again, I've become a fairly healthy person, and I'm not going to just, bang on somebody's door and start yelling at them. That's not who I am. But somehow they're scared of that. So this whole rift has been extremely emotionally traumatic for me. And I guess the moral of this portion of the story is, first of all, that I'm sharing it, because after being lectured in front of a bunch of people in public as to, writing a blog or doing things being so unhealthy, I really did kind of listen to them. And I'm not going to anymore, because I think it is healthy to share in whatever form a person can, whether that's writing or talking to their friends or talking to family that they think they can trust. And two is that family dysfunction needs to be a topic discussed. I feel like in the school systems, they need to have classes on life, I guess, like budgeting, whatever, all those skills that you don't get, and to talk about what a healthy family dynamic should be. I feel like if we could have had some conversations instead of just cutting me out of their life, that we could have made some progress on this. But that's not the choice they made. And I think that's a shame for them as well as me. And I know this happens to a lot of people. You get cut out for whatever reason, whether it's your sexual orientation, religion, choice of partner, etc., right? We need to talk about how to have healthy conversations that are difficult. Because I think conflict can be really healthy if it's handled in a productive way. It's good to have differing viewpoints to discuss them and then choose how to think or how to act afterwards, rather than acting out of fear and just closing that door, or, blowing up and having a fight, doing all these coping mechanisms. So that's the other part of my story that I left out. It's not necessarily dealing with abuse, but it has been a lot of emotional trauma for myself. And let's start talking about family dynamics and what's healthy, because if you come from a very dysfunctional family, it's not always obvious, and you don't necessarily know how to approach them. So let's leave that door open. Okay, thanks guys. Love ya.